Now that class, the middle school class, is what led to FWD.us, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why I started doing that was, Priscilla and I have done a lot of education work. I mean, her career is kids. I mean, when she graduated from Harvard, she went to become a teacher, and now she's a pediatrician. She's a resident. And our dinner conversations are all, Facebook and kids. And so she decided one day that, if we were going to do a bunch of education projects, that I couldn't just be that guy that gives money to education projects without ever having taught myself, right? Which I think is a pretty reasonable perspective. So she helped me set up this class. And one day after class, I asked the students how they were thinking about going to college. And one of the top students in the class raised his hand and said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to college because I'm undocumented. And I was just, my mind was blown, right? I hadn't really thought about that, and I mean, this kid was so talented, and I couldn't tell the difference. There was no perceptible difference between him and any of the other students. So I asked the other kids, I'm like, how many of you were born outside of the US? And a bunch of them put their hands up. And one of them said, I really hope our government does something about this. And I kind of went home that night, and I talked to Priscilla, and I talked to my friend Joe, who is one of the smartest people I know at both technology and politics and the intersection between them. And I was like, we have to do something. How can we do this? And the great news is that we decided that we were going to try to build an industry coalition, right? So it wasn't just going to be something that a few people were going to take on. So I called a bunch of my friends who run companies, right? I mean, I called Drew Houston, and I called Chamath and Kohler, who had been at Facebook, and Ron, sitting right there. And
yeah.
The great thing is, the tech community really cares about changing the world, right? So a lot of people I would expect to have been, okay, no, I care about getting, high-skill folks for my company, but we made very clear up front, this is not just about the high-skill piece. We're not going to compromise. If we're going to push on this, and we're going to push for getting full comprehensive immigration reform done. And, people in the tech community are really idealistic and really believed in getting that done. It wasn't very hard to get people on board, and I've never really been prouder of my peers in the community for coming together to work on an important issue like that.
Do you think that anything will happen with that this year? Or next year? Or ever? It's really tough, I bet, to mess around with Washington, D.C., right?
I'm an optimist. I think you have to be an entrepreneur, right? These things are not without risk, but there are a lot of people who want to do the right thing. People talk a lot about how in Washington it's so polarized and no one can get along, but the conversations that I've had, a lot of people really want to do the right thing and agree with this and are kind of looking for a path forward.
So zero chance of anything happening this year or next year?
I don't know. It's hard for me to say. It's not my job to get it done. It's my job to kind of help provide support for the people who are going to do it.